When was the last time you went to the cinema? Not watched a movie, but actually headed to a movie theatre, bought the popcorn, did the whole thing. Well, perhaps you got out of the habit during the pandemic. Either way, cinema chain Cineworld has confirmed it is considering filing for bankruptcy in the United States as it struggles with billions of euros worth of debt. To talk more about this now, I'm joined on set by David Morikand from our culture department. David, what's going on?
Well, it's not looking great. It was reported late last week by the Wall Street Journal that Cineworld were planning to file for bankruptcy, and since then the shares in the world's second largest cinema chain have dropped by about 60%, and it was confirmed at the beginning of this week that they have filed for Chapter 11 protection in the US. Now, the London-filed company has about 751 sites in over 10 countries, and they've run up approximately £4 billion of debt while the cinemas were closed during the pandemic. And they kind of hoped that blockbuster releases like Top Gun Maverick or Thor: Love and Thunder would somehow represent a bit of a bounce back, but that kind of post-pandemic recovery hasn't really materialized. Now, their main rival, AMC, seem to be a little bit more optimistic. They're saying that the second half of 2022 and that 2023 will be all right, but even they have said that the current releasing schedule is quite weak, and that is the case. I mean, obviously with the pandemic and the low admissions rate in theatres, the rise of streaming platforms and number of subscribers, the fact that films are coming out on video on demand a lot quicker now, or bypassing cinemas altogether and going directly on streaming, it's a big problem for these cinemas. And unless certain films can potentially overperform, it's not going to get any better. And especially with only a handful of big tentpole films coming out this year, which could represent a spike in viewership, like both sequels for Black Panther and Avatar, but those come out in November and December.
Yeah, it's a while to wait, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned streaming as well, because, I mean, of course, that's the first thing that a lot of people are pointing to. We're also seeing Disney now beat Netflix when it comes to subscribers. I mean, that does seem quite a score for them, doesn't it?
It is, and well, yeah, so the numbers were released last week that Disney Plus had just edged past Netflix with 221 million streaming subscribers compared to Netflix's 220. And they also announced this while they were announcing a price rise for Disney Plus customers to watch the streaming service without commercials. And then at that point, the shares in Disney rose by 6.9%. And it is impressive because Disney Plus only started in 2017 as a rival to Netflix. And Netflix is very much struggling to find more subscribers, be it through account sharing or the quality of content on the streamer. But what's quite funny is that this year, in the second half of the year, this battle of the streamers will centre around a quite unusual figure, because both Disney Plus and Netflix are releasing separate Pinocchio films. Now, this is not the first time that there's been this kind of twin release phenomenon. I mean, this kind of collective itch that studios get. We saw it in '98 with Deep Impact and Armageddon. Then there was the Truman Capote biopics in 2006, Capote and Infamous, and even Florence Foster Jenkins in 2016. But the fact is that this one with Pinocchio, we've seen this story before. I mean, there have been 34 Pinocchio films since 1911. And here we have Disney Plus going for a live-action remake, which is helmed by Robert Zemeckis, who's the director of Back to the Future and Forrest Gump. And that comes out in a few weeks in September. And on the other side, you have Netflix getting Guillermo del Toro on board. Now, this is the director of The Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth, the Oscar-winning The Shape of Water. I mean, these absolutely incredible films. And this is a much darker take. It's set in the 1930s fascist Italy, and it's a stop-motion film with voiced by Ewan McGregor and Tilda Swinton. And this seems like a little bit more close to Carlo Collodi's original story, in that it's prolifically bleak and very much like a grim fairy tale. So it's too soon to say which one of these puppets will prevail, but at the same time, it is quite interesting to see that this streaming one-upmanship is going to continue in this very unique way in the second half of this year.
As you say, perhaps Pinocchio will end up being the truth test when it comes to the battle of the streamers. David Morikand from our culture department. David, thanks a lot.
Thank you.